The tip of the tongue, the tip in the cheek.
Good evening. We are live on the BIM Monsters podcast. Another week, another episode. Chris Krogman, Lucas Berry, Joe Gaither, all hanging out with you guys on the BIM Monsters podcast tonight. You can follow us on the Twitter machine at BIM_pod. Follow us on the YouTube at Believe in Monsters podcast. And we appreciate you guys for jumping in and joining us. We're going to have a fun episode tonight. Hopefully you find it fun and interesting, informative. Lots of things to talk about thanks to Lucas Berry and Chris Krogman putting together a great show itinerary for us tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun, as I know a lot of people are thinking about NFC and AFC conference championships, but we are already into the offseason with our Chicago Bears. We're going to talk about Matt Eberflus, how the first year went, Ryan Pohl's second offseason on deck, see what we're going to do with all our draft picks and all our money. But before we do any of that, Lucas Berry, how's life been treating you, man?
Dude, I feel like just last week we were it feels like just yesterday we were talking to Stephen Burton. So time has been flying this offseason. Already we're in the conference championship week. We saw the Bengals take down the Bills. We saw the 49ers take down the Cowboys. We saw the Eagles advance. Good week of football, a great week of football coming up. So things are great on my end. Went on a little work trip at the end of last week. I got sent to an island, which is interesting. It was almost like a vacation work trip. But Chris, how you doing, man?
Wonderful. Yeah, week's going well so far. We are getting towards the end of January, and like you said, Lucas, we had some pretty good football over the weekend. Bills go down, which was kind of surprising, and not just by like a little bit. They pretty much got housed. So I was just thinking when you were saying that, Lucas, like, what do the Bears need to do to get on that level? And when you, it's a laugher. When you think about the real strength of the Bengals, it was all the weapons, right? It was Higgins and Chase, Mixon, and
Even Hurst.
Hurst with a great athletic play to get a first down. And then their defense showed up pretty well. Their secondary covered Diggs and company very well. Defensive line was getting pressure on Allen most of the day. So
Dude, their front seven's sick. It's very underrated.
I agree. For sure.
I mean, to your point, the Bengals they picked first with Joe Burrow 4 years ago, and now they made back-to-back AFC probably 4 years ago now, and now they made back-to-back AFC championships. So hopefully we have our quarterback. And I mean, what was Zach Taylor in his first 2 years there? He was horrible, wasn't he?
They you know what's funny is I saw a Bengals fan on, I think, TikTok talking about like he was proposing to some British woman, like a princess or something, and he's like, "You can come and live with me in Cincinnati. We have the Bengals." And, they're really good. We have Joe Burrow and we have Jamar Chase, but we have this knucklehead head coach. And he was just railing on Zach Taylor. And this was, I think, after the Super Bowl last year. And I'm like, you guys were not like there. You weren't expected to be there. And I get like once you're there, you're kind of like, we're good enough to be here. But at the same time, I think you have to appreciate what you have. I know we all make fun of the Packers for all their playoff failures, but good golly, I wouldn't mind having Aaron Rodgers and a whole bunch of playoff wins or playoff appearances at least. So, chill out, Bengals fans. You're good, really good.
Zach Taylor 6-25-1 in his first two seasons.
Wow.
Wait, what? Oh yeah, that makes sense. I was like, that's too many games. And then I'm like, that's spot on. So 6-25-1. So basically, they got Burrow, and then the year after they drafted Chase, right when they were picking top 5 again.
Well, they got Burrow and he got hurt his rookie year, right? He was out for either most of it or all of it, and then they were drafted top 5 again, and they took Chase, And then they went to the playoffs and the AFC Championship game in the Super Bowl. Yeah. So,
well, considering the Bears already have the quarterback, we think, hopefully this will be the 1 year we're picking the top 5 and never again for the foreseeable future. Would be nice.
Yeah, but there's no Jamar Chase in this draft, and we do not have T. Higgins and the other wide receiver, Tyler Boyd. Or
we could get T. Higgins, can't we? Ooh.
I mean,
we can get us a T. Higgins.
That has been a thing that has been floated out there. And I am very much one of the ones that floated it out there, but I don't know how feasible that is. I mean, he does still have a year left on his contract. They could tag him, they're going to have to extend. Joe Cool, Jamar will be coming up. They're probably going to have, so I mean, they might lose a T. Higgins.
So Burrow is going to be, I guess, one of the first guys to get this mega extension in this new era. Like, what do you think he's going to make per year? 50? Like, are we at the point where the quarterback's going to be making $50 million a year? Because you know what I mean? Like, he's next up to get the big extension. And you can't really base it on what we've seen before, considering how much the cap is going to spike and all that from the COVID year. So, I don't know, man. He might be making 50 a year, and that's where you're like, okay, if that's the case, then yeah, they might have to get rid of a T. Higgins.
Yeah, it's completely it's completely possible. I want to look up. So Rodgers' cap number is 31 against a 240. Oh Jesus! Why do they gotta make math? Why you gotta make me math? What I want to figure out essentially is like what the percentage of cap that Rodgers takes up. Hello.
A lot.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, so it's 31,623 by 70 divided by.
Is it like a quarter?
It's only like 15%, but still.
15%'s a lot.
It is, and that's just his cap number. That's not like.
They still got 51 other guys too.
Anyway, so Joe, how are you, sir?
Oh, well, I'm doing good. We're putting football to bed in Tuscaloosa and really turning it over on the basketball. So getting ready for the NFL draft. I mean, that's the biggest thing for us is seeing where some of these Bama guys are going to go. And obviously for the three of us, maybe we'll select one, maybe not. But seeing who our Bears will be selecting. That's really where my focus is, turning it over into basketball season and getting this offseason really rolling and getting some of these changes really implemented so that I can have some hope for the 2023 Chicago Bears season. I lost the hope this past year pretty quickly.
Yeah, it didn't take long. So Lucas put together a little bit of an agenda today. Now we got the folks all warmed up. What do you want to chat about?
I want to chat about. Oh, go ahead.
You got it, Joe. You got it.
I think, Chris, you brought up a great question while we were waiting on Lucas Berry. We're talking about the first year for Matt Eberflus and talking about really the first year for Ryan Poles as well, setting up the second year. Luke, before you arrived, as you were working out your computer, getting set up, Chris asked me if I would have rather hired Brian Daboll or if I would rather have hired Doug Peterson or any of the Kevin Stefanski, any of the other first year head coaches that were hired in the same class, Josh McDaniels as Matt Eberflus.
And your thoughts were?
Oh no, I'm setting Luke up. Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Well, I'll go, but then I need to hear what you're thinking on this. I mean,
Sure.
I'm obviously a little biased because I wanted him from the start, but after seeing what Doug Peterson did, I would love to have him here in Chicago working with Justin Fields. Then again, different situations. Brian Daboll, I know a lot more people are higher on him than I am. I don't know. Something about that Giants team is weird to me. I don't think it was some kind of crazy act of coaching. I think they definitely got a little lucky. I mean, their point differential this year was not good, and they won multiple games this year where they were outgained and out first downed, and they just got some turnovers. So I'm not sure if I would hire Daboll over Eberflus. I would say probably Doug Peterson, and that's probably it. And I was impressed with Eberflus this year. I thought he did a fine job. Not impressed, but nothing that I'm like worried about yet.
Well, we were talking before the show, and I think that really it's hard to play revisionist history. We should have hired Brian Daboll. We should have hired Doug Peterson. When you look at the Jags, I mean, Doug Peterson was successful this year, but the Jaguars also had a ton of assets to use to help out Trevor Lawrence and kind of revamp that team. And he used them well. And Daboll, he squeezed every ounce of juice out of that Giants offense. I don't really think that they have, outside of one of the players we'll talk about tonight, anything that special on the offensive side of the football. So if the question's posed to me, no, I'm pretty happy with the Eberflus hire. I don't know that you would have had much better results out of Doug Peterson or out of Brian Daboll. I think that due to kind of the assets that Ryan Poles had to work with, you just kind of had to make the best with what you had. And Matt Eberflus, even though the Bears lost a lot of games, the Bears looked ready to play in a lot of games. It really took until that third quarter where it's like, oh shit, the talent and the depth has really started to show up here, and things started to go wrong. I don't really know that that's on Matt Eberflus's plate. So, hindsight being 2020, considering all the assets that we had versus assets that these other organizations and franchises had, I'm pretty happy with the hire.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest things that I was impressed with that I told you guys throughout the season was just preparedness. There were not times coming out of the bye week where we looked lost, or the long bye, the extended bye week. So I thought both those games he had us well prepared. And then, just day-to-day coaching stuff, time management, timeout management, stuff like that. I thought he was fine. Challenges, things like that. We didn't have him making challenges where the other team ended up getting the ball back in a touchback or whatever, like John Fox did. So,
and we were finally one of the least penalized teams in the league.
Yeah.
Which is nice after the Matt Nagy year.
Disciplined.
Well, we got a special guest backstage. Might as well let him in on the convo and see who he would have hired.
Man.
Mr. Raul Bennington joining the Believe in Monsters podcast. welcome in at Black_42. Raul Bennington, the floor is yours. What an honor it is for us to have you here.
Oh, man, it's no honor. I'm just here to talk a bunch of trash. That's it. What's going on, fellas?
Chilling. So you are the voice of the people.
Yes.
Not, most people, but some people, I imagine, agree with you.
And you guys are lucky. I even wore my Bears paraphernalia.
Well, there you go.
Which just means I'm either going to the gym or getting out of the gym.
Well, you coming or going?
Exactly. Actually, I'm going.
All right. Well, we won't keep you from your workout too long, Raul. We did want to have you on, as you are, in my opinion, one of the funnest Bears fans out there. A lot of good takes, a lot of strong takes. You're very convicted in what you have to say, which I appreciate. There's a lot of wavering that goes on Bears Twitter, and people kind of go with the crowd. You always stand out as someone with their distinct opinion. So, how do you, Raul, feel like, Poles' first season as a GM went in terms of, how he handled free agency, the draft, in-season kind of additions, and hiring Eberflus as compared to, some of these other first-year head coaches?
So first, I want to thank y'all for having me on. I really appreciate y'all. I would say for polls, I'm really down on polls. I know you're gonna be people gonna be like, oh, he's all negative, but if you just look at some of the moves that he's made, and it's only year one, right? And that's cool. It's year one, so with it being year one, you kind of learn from your mistake. But everything from what was his name? Our right guard's situation back in camp to the Roquan's situation for me, passing on Pickens, which was a clear pick, and not having enough around Fields to assess if Fields was the guy, right? So we put Fields in a position where it was almost lose-lose unless he was Superman. And he showed us that he was Superman, right? He didn't put enough out there for us to get a real gauge or real understanding on what we had. So I think it was extremely poor. And then he went into the season because of the Pickens flop. What he did next was he overpaid for the person that Pickens took over his job, right? I can't think of one trade that he's made that he's won. That's just me, right? And I'm not saying, bury the guy because it's year one. Folks learn from their mistakes. I just hope that he doesn't double down on the things that he did. I'm really low on polls. I'm kind of low on his player projection as well. Like his talent acquisition. I'm not seeing like the guys that you're just like, okay, I know this guy is going to be a star. I know this guy's going to be on the team for 10 years. I get it. Braxton Jones. I get the 2 DBs that we have. They're all good pieces. I get that. But as a whole, as far as free agency and draft, he's not even batting 20, 30%. Right? And I get it. Last year was to clear house, and now we have to see if he can build. But I'm not seeing that talent evaluator. And I actually think that, dare I say, Pace was a better talent evaluator thus far than what Poles is. Now, Eberflus, I get it. He didn't have a lot in the cupboard. His team played hard. They played hard. They played disciplined. Like y'all said, few turnovers. But as a defensive coordinator, even if you don't have the pieces, your scheme should fit the pieces that you have. And I don't think that we actually played a scheme that fit the pieces that we had. He didn't really make the most out of it. And I expect more from a D coordinator, right? The defense was boo-boo. It was terrible, right? It was absolutely awful. And I don't think that he did anything to kind of slow anything down. We were just getting mauled all over, right? So as a D coordinator, that's your side of the ball. You take pride fighting it. If we look at Lovie Smith's first year or John Fox's first year, the defenses had nothing on them. But they played hard, and they weren't the worst in the league. You still saw that promise. Going into next year, we don't see any promise from that defense. You can't tell me there's promise from that defense. The DBs, I think, are going to be good. They're going to be average. Everything else is just a wait and see.
Yeah, that front seven's tough to watch.
Miserable.
Yeah, I agree. They did find what's the linebacker's name now?
Sanborn.
Jack Sanborn.
Jack Sanborn.
And that's another thing that gets to me. That's another thing that gets to me. Okay, you can agree. Okay, I don't agree about trading Roquan, right?
Right.
But even in preseason, a lot of us said we want to see Sanborn at the Sam backer, right? Because Roquan's whole game is to get sideline to sideline downhill. He can't be touched. Sanborn is a sledgehammer. Why would you not put him next to Roquan, right? Let him be the one that absorbs the blocks as the Mike linebacker because Morrow can't do it either, and let Roquan roam around. Like a lot of people suggested this. If nothing else, play Sanborn at the Sam, right?
Well, that's because Bears Twitter is smarter than the coaches.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
Yeah.
A lot of
it.
No, we did all kind of, let's see what we have at least, right? I mean, we haven't had a thumper since like Kwiatkowski essentially to be that kind of Sam, that kind of get off the blocks type linebacker and stuff to run, like you said. But the system also doesn't really fit Roquan because he's not, there's not defensive linemen taking up blocks and eating up space. It's more like a gap defense, and guards and everybody were getting downhill to Roquan early in the season. So he was the only one out there. So I mean, of course they're going to key on him and block him, but it is what it is. That's gone. Eberflus, I liked him as a first-year head coach. I didn't think it was an absolute disaster, which is good. I think there's building blocks. Polls, I think is a TBD, kind of like you said, Raul. So, Lucas, Joe, what do you guys got for Raul?
I'll go ahead. Raul, you opened up basically lamenting over passing on George Pickens, and I think that's a common. I think that's a common thing for a lot of Bears fans. We didn't have enough guys out there to win one-on-ones or to help Justin Fields at all. But I'll ask you, with that pick, Ryan Poles used it on Kyler Gordon. It took me about 6 or 7 weeks of, oh my God, Kyler Gordon, what the hell are you doing out there, for me to start to see something out of him. What did you see out of Kyler Gordon? And yes, we don't have George Pickens, but we did get a pretty decent little corner out of the draft pick. What did you think about his rookie season?
So Gordon, I liked coming out of Washington. Cornerback is the hardest position to play on the field. I don't care what nobody says, quarterback,
100%.
whatever. I don't care. Cornerback is the hardest position to play. And if you're playing inside nickel, it's the hardest. But like you have no outside leverage as far as the sidelines. You have nothing there. So I expected him to struggle. Every cornerback struggles, right? It takes year 3 for you to actually start understanding, concepts, start understanding what receivers and quarterbacks are trying to do while learning the philosophy of your defense as well. It takes a while. So I expected him to struggle, especially with no pass rush. Like I expected all of them to struggle. I think Gordon is good where he's at. There, of course, there needs to be a lot of improvement, but like we saw the final 6 to 8 games, he actually started showing a lot of life. He started recognizing different, coverage matches. He started recognizing different routes, right? And started seeing more what these teams were trying to do. He's going to struggle next year. It happens, but I don't think we can discard Gordon yet. I like Gordon. Actually, I like Gordon more than I like Brisker.
Honestly, last year's corner class was one of the deepest I remember in a long time. I mean, in some other classes, I mean, Gordon would probably potentially be a first-round pick this year in a class that has a bunch of guys jumbled up, and it's just pick your poison whenever you prefer.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I definitely see the athleticism. Gordon showed a lot of athleticism at the end of last year. I said, okay, yeah, maybe he could be a solid piece for this defense. But the Bears have the number 1 pick. They were the worst team in the league last year, and a lot of Bears fans at the beginning of the year, myself included, sometimes just thought there was no possible way, unless Fields was just absolutely horrible, they'd be in this position. But here we are. We have the most cap in the league. How do you want the Bears to go through this offseason? And is there any pieces out there in free agency, off the top of your head, that you want to say, we need that guy to make us better?
So I've been kind of vocal on this, and I would outline my entire free agency plan to you guys if you want. I think day one, if the good Lord allows, you make Deron Payne the highest paid defensive line, interior defensive lineman in the NFL.
Amen.
I think
we're with you.
Have to
Amen.
Pay. You got to pay to play, right? You got to pay to play.
All right.
It's just like
can I stop you right there?
Go ahead.
What are the chances Washington lets him go?
I think those chances might be. I think it's probably 45% they let him go.
Right, because he's 26. I mean, he's prime for the picking right there. I mean, that's crazy.
The thing that Washington has to decide is, do we bring back Chase? Right? Because Chase is about to go on that 50-year contract. Do we bring him back, or do we bring back Payne? So that's why I think it's 45. They can always cut Carson Wentz, but eventually you can't pay 4 D linemen that much money. It's just not smart football, right? So I personally think it's 45% chance that they let him go and then they try to re-sign him. That's just my opinion, right? But with that said, I mean, you start off with Payne and you build the rest of your team and the rest of your offseason around that specific piece. So if you get Payne, this is my idea. If you get Payne, I'm also signing Davenport, right? Davenport is somebody that doesn't have the stats. He does not have the sacks, but what he does is he has a lot of pressures. He gets there. He's more like a bigger Leonard Floyd. He great as far as against the run, right? He gets pressures, but he just does not get those sacks, right? And then I would get Justin Houston. Justin Houston he's played in this system before. He's 33, but he still can move. He had 9.5 sacks last year, right? And then from there, I'm just talking on the defensive side of the ball. I go into the draft. The prime trade partner would be the Colts. You get down to number 4. Once you're down to number 4, now you have your pick as far as Carter or Anderson, right? So if you get Anderson, you have a 3-4 man rotation with Davenport, Gibson, Houston, and Anderson. You have Houston that can teach Anderson a couple of things. But now it gets really, really sexy if you get Carter and Payne in the interior, right? That gets a little bit frightening, a little bit sexy, right? So at that point, you can now, find your linebackers still, and your DBs are okay. Now on the offensive side of the ball, of course, we need the O-line. I would love, what's his name? Is it Ben Jones from Tennessee? Went to Charlotte. I loved him coming out. I would love to plug him in at left guard. Somebody like, what's his name? Pontiac from Cleveland at center. That's great. I would love that. I don't love McGlinchey, but it's okay. Taylor Lewan might get cut because the Titans are in cap hell. They're in absolute cap hell. So if he gets cut, I would take a shot at him at right tackle, right? And then
that's interesting.
The Titans are in absolute cap hell. But and then the wide receivers that I love the most out of all of them is Deontay Hardy. Played for the Saints. The guy was coming on last year and then he got injured. Deep threat, short and deep, ball guy that can provide a lot of value.
Pause.
And then in the draft, pause. I'm sorry, I apologize. And then in the draft, I'm in love with Gibbs. I am absolutely in love with Gibbs. I think Gibbs is the second coming. Not exactly. Don't quote me exactly, but CJ2K. I think what you do with Gibbs is him and Fields in that backfield. Defenses have to make a choice. Already, defenses can't crash down on Fields, right? And you got somebody that's a potential 4-3 flat guy with ridiculous balance. It could be house music every single time he or Fields touches that rock. And then if I do have this trade with the Colts, I know I'm long-winded. I'll wrap that up in a second. If I have this trade with the Colts and I can get this second-round pick next year's second and like a third, I'm taking one of those thirds, right, or a third and a fourth, and I'm trading from 55 higher in the second round, and I'm taking JSN. I'm going for it, right? Get into the 40s, right, and take JSN. Right there,
it's too good to be true. I think it's too good to be true.
You think JSN makes it to the second?
I think he does. The reason why I think JSN makes it to the second is because it is rare that NFL scouts break their mold. One of the things is the barometer for a wide receiver is a 4.52, right? I don't think JSN breaks a 4.52, but what I do think is JSN's lateral ability is out of this world. I think he's going to be he's probably going to jump 36 and higher, but I don't think he's going to get that 40 that's going to be under the 4.52.
And he's already not big. Exactly.
If we look at people like Keenan Allen had, I think it was a 4.56, but his movement drills were out of this world. What's my man's name from LA? Oh God, what's his name?
Cooper Kupp,
another person, right? Anquan Bolden is not the same. Anquan was slow as dirt, but those type of players tend to fall. right? And JSN, even though we know he's good, there's also a question about him not playing last year. So I think that he could be in the second round. Don't get it twisted. I think that JSN is going to be a top 10, wideout. But I think that he slips into the second round. And that would be my key offseason, gets. And if you feel as your team is ready, hit up LA. Ask him what Jalen Ramsey is hitting for. Right? You have the cap.
Yeah, this is like Lucas said, kind of it's an oddball corner class, but it's fairly top end. I think I've seen like up to 5 or 7 guys could go in the top 75. So it's it could be that way to go. But Raul, I want to touch on this because this is one of you and I's favorite debates is kind of running back and the importance of the position. You touched on your man from Alabama. As far as like free agency, would you spend that money on like a Saquon Barkley or go a little bit lower with a Josh Jacobs, or what's your kind of philosophy on spending that money versus spending that cap or spending that draft capital?
If I had to pick, I would choose the draft capital. But I'm not gonna sit up here and not lie like I wouldn't love Jacobs or Saquon. I think both of them would be difference makers with Fields. Fields is a cheat code. Like I don't know how else to explain it. You're really playing against like 8 men when you're facing Fields in the run, because it's like your ends can't crash. They can't come downhill. They have to wait, right? So the reads, it's just easy, right? So, but I think Saquon would be a good get. It's almost like, man, how much wear and tear does he have already? He's already he's coming off of that ACL. I love the guy. He's coming off the ACL, but you spending $16 million on it, right?
Right.
I don't. You have the money, but is it smart money? Now, if I had to pick, Saquon for 16 mil or Gibbs for in the second round, easy Gibbs,
Right.
easy, right? And this draft class is deep at running back, super deep. But if I'm all about the difference makers. Like don't just draft for position need and versatility. Draft the position makers, because you don't have enough blue chippers on this team. You have one blue chipper on the entire team, and that's Fields. Nobody else.
Yeah, no, it's a good argument. It's a good conversation piece for Bears Twitter this offseason. Depending on what contracts are looking like. I don't love Saquon at $16 million. I think that's kind of like you said, dumb money. But I don't know. I mean, he'd be fun. It'd be fun with him and Fields in the backfield, but I'd be weary, dropping that much money on 26, 27-year-old running back with previous injury histories to, an important body part, So Josh Jacobs is a guy I really like in free agency. I thought he had a hell of a season. I think he fits this scheme well. He also catches out of the backfield. I think he and Herbert would look really good together. So if he's, Walmart version of Saquon and you get him for a little bit less, I would be very open to that. But I'm also very open to Gibbs in the second. That's a sexy pick. Depending, if you're looking at, Gibbs or your, kind of your trade up plan, if you have those resources from the Colts, would you prefer Gibbs or JSN?
Oh my God. Oh man, that's a tough one. Oh God. Right now I'm leaning Gibbs because of the fact of I think he makes the biggest immediate impact on Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And what he does, you can't really find. And I love JSN. He's one of my favorite prospects in this draft period. I love JSN, but if you're just looking at it, Gibbs' ability to hit the deep ball, to just hit the big play, it's a cheat code with Fields. I mean, imagine CJ2K with Michael Kovic, right? You don't want to face that. That's literally. It's like what do you do as a defense? What do? You don't have enough people that are fast enough to keep up with that type of speed. And Poles did say one thing. Floss and Poles did say one thing. They want to get fast. Right? They want to get fast. They want to get downhill. They want to out athletic every other team. That's how you do it.
Yeah, man. With Jahmyr Gibbs, he also gives you a really high upside in the passing game. So you obviously have him out of the backfield. My biggest thing with him is you take him in the second round. You've seen Montgomery was our best pass protector. Khalil Herbert struggled in pass protection. And Gibbs struggled this past year in pass protection. I guess that's like a small thing to complain about. That's like what the caveman brain complains about. I think Gibbs is like the Tariq Cohen, but actually a real running back size, a real running back. Like he can give you that same speed, burst, and agility, but he's and everything out of the passing game. But he actually looks like a running back.
Yeah, Joe, you're a Bama fan, right?
Oh yeah.
The one thing you hear all the time is Gibbs was the fastest person at Alabama.
Yes.
And being the fastest person at Alabama is some ridiculous stuff to even say because they get nothing but the top end human beings God has made. You feel me? In the last 20 years, Alabama gets the top end human beings that God has made. So to be that fast, it says something. And like you said, out of the backfield, or Alabama split them out wide as well, and if you have that much speed on the field, if teams want to blitz and Fields' ability to get out, I mean, dog, you're gonna get ripped to shreds, because at some point you're putting a linebacker 1-on-1 versus somebody that runs routes like a wide receiver and runs a 4.340. It's not fair.
Ro, your off-season outline to me sounds like a Madden fever dream. Adding these players on defense, adding those players on offense, drafting all the right guys. What's the? Your outline sounds awesome. With that being said, what's the possibility of any of it coming true, or what's the percentage of your outline that you think is remotely possible?
I think the only one that's not possible is what's his name getting tagged, Payne getting tagged. I think outside of that, I think everything else is absolutely possible. I mean, the Bears have money to spend, and they have to hit the floor, So go all out. Why not? We've seen the worst to first, and then I keep saying, you have a blue chip guy. And you have a difference maker in Fields. Go all out. I think it's more than realistic. I think if you want to get funky as a GM, you could flip this whole entire division on its head in 1 year.
Absolutely. I mean, you saw the Vikings won this division, and they were a bad football team. I mean, maybe people say, "Oh, they're not bad." No, they were a bad football team to me. They had a lot of flaws, and this division. I mean, as much as we like to say a black and blue division were the best, no, this division was pretty bad this past year. Yeah, you execute at 50-60% of the plan that you just laid out, and you're putting a team on the field that can make noise and maybe win the division.
Yeah, and then there are some also low key acquisitions that you can make, like Okoro at linebacker. If you want to get Cam Sutton, what's my man's name out of Arizona? He played for Washington. The other DB. There's so many other smaller pieces that you can get, right? If Payne doesn't work, you can also go after Hargraves for a short-term contract, right? If that doesn't work, what's his name? Dre'Mont out of Denver. Yeah, Dre'Mont Jones out of Denver. He is a pressure guy. You feel me? He's not as good against the run, but somebody like that, and then you can pair him up with Carter, still works. It's still a dangerous combo. So it's just, I believe in punching teams in the mouth and adding to a strength. If you get Payne, that's a strength. What I want at that point is to add to that strength by adding Carter.
They got to fix these lines, that's for sure.
Yep. You could do it in a year. I mean, people, I see it all the time on Twitter. Oh, hold your horses. This, that, and the other. Why? Why? Your job as a GM is to come in there and win games year in and year out. There is no, let's be patient. Patient for what? You have a difference maker in a quarterback that not too many teams have. You don't have time to wait and see. Strike the iron while it's hot.
Amen.
You feel me?
Raul, you talked about a lot of, the Justin Fields being a cheat code, a lot of weapons to add in. I want to get your take on one more, kind of
Chris, I think you muted yourself, sir.
Thought it was me.
No. I think his icon says he was muted. There you go. Oh, nope.
Oh, he's frozen in time. There he is.
Yeah, my computer's freaking out right now. Luke Getsy, Raul. What was your thoughts on him?
A mastermind in the run game needs a strong pass game coordinator. I think that his pass concepts, I get it. He didn't have the dogs, but I wasn't really blown away by his route concepts. I'm willing to give Getsy a chance. I think that if I had to grade him, it was probably with what he had, maybe a B. Maybe a B minus or a B. But I think that there needs to be some sort of marrying as to what Fields is good at and what his route trees were. Because I don't think there was any route trees or combinations that you're just like, man, this is some innovative stuff. Plus, who can we say he really developed? Komet, maybe?
Komet. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sure.
That's about all I got. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not trash. Come on. You're kidding me.
Trash.
I mean, for what he is, he's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not Travis Kelce, but get the fuck.
Why isn't he Travis Kelce? We need him to be Kelce.
He's not that guy.
Why not?
Yeah. Because God didn't build him that way. That's why.
Exactly. Another free agent I would love to see too is Irv Smith.
Yeah, we are definitely on the same page there.
Well, yeah. Raul, I was gonna say, man, this is a good class for tight ends. This might be a year where you can take a flyer in the 4th or 5th round. This class is deep at tight end. I mean, there's a ton of guys. So
absolutely,
I would not mind the Bears going for a tight end in the.
We just need Michael Mayer at pick number 7.
Well, I guess Raul, my question for you is: we heard your outline for the offseason, and we talked about Gibbs versus JSN. I mean, how do you fix this wide receiver room, or it is what it is? I mean, this year's wide receiver class, like Jacoby Myers, Allen Lazard, basically the same kind of guys we have. Like, it's not doing much for the team. And the draft doesn't have that top end guy. I mean, it's again deeper in the 2nd, 3rd rounds. You might be, nice role players, but maybe not the superstar we've seen in years past. So, I mean, how do you fix this wide receiver room this year?
We go into our time machine and we take George Pickens. I'm joking. All right, so I think that there are different.
They have to draft someone, right?
Yeah, they have to. I don't think that you could really go into free
early.
Agency
they have to draft someone early.
Yep. Because there's nobody in free agency. I've had a conversation about what's his name, Slant Boy, getting
Michael Thomas. No.
Michael Thomas, and I'm just not a fan. What I wanted all along, and I'll tell you my idea. My idea was to trade for Mike Evans. I thought that was golden, but you kind of cancel that out now because of Claypool. But I thought you could get Mike Evans for maybe a 4th, 5th round pick. Right, that was my idea because Tampa Bay is in cap hell as well, and we all knew they were going to be. But now it's like free agency is just outside of Deontay Hardy, there's nobody that I love or like. So I would add somebody like Deontay Hardy. I would even look into what's his name, buddy that went to NIU, plays for the Giants. What's his name? Oh, what's his name? Darn it, what's his name? He used to play for the Lions. Somebody like
Oh,
that.
Galladay.
Galladay. If they release Galladay, maybe a 5th round,
I feel like he's like the same type
wideout.
of receiver we have on our roster.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking of him as a 4th, 5th type guy.
Oh yeah, I
been
know.
so
I just
bad.
mean like he gives you effort blocking. He just seems like a lot of the other guys we have that do all that
Yeah.
shit.
Yep.
He drops a
I
lot
agree.
too.
I agree.
One name that people are bringing up in possible trade scenarios since he brought up Mike Evans is DeAndre Hopkins, who Joe and I have had a back and forth about. I'm not completely against it other than he's, 30, 31 or whatever. If you want to give him away, for a 5th, I would consider it. What's your take on Hopkins?
I've loved Hopkins since Clemson, but I think it's a bad move. I just think it's a bad move because what are you really doing? It's not like somebody that really meshes with, Field style of play. Fields like cats that obviously get, separate. On top of that, you had your chance at the free agency trade and you chose Claypool. So you can't really double down on that, right? And then you're going to pay Hopkins, what, 20 mil? Like, for what? 30, he's about to be, 33? It's not really kind to wide receivers.
No.
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm not really too happy about that. I know people say it, but I don't see it as a realistic possibility. But that's why I say Mike Evans isn't a realistic possibility anymore because of Claypool. Claypool kind of nixed all that.
Well, with that being the framework, do you believe in Claypool's ability to emerge and be a piece in this offense? Because, you traded midseason and he turned out to be nothing. You kind of watched those last few games. What do you think about his prospects for 2023?
I think he's who he is. I think at his ceiling, absolute ceiling, and I had a conversation with people about this as well, is actually a frightening prospect. I think Claypool's ceiling is 1,200 yards, right? So 1,200 yards, and that's his absolute ceiling, in my opinion. Now you have to give him 20 mil. Are you willing to give Claypool 20 mil knowing that his ceiling is 1,200 yards, right? I think he's a realistically 700 to 800 yard guy, like a mid to low tier number 2. So I said it before, even before the trade went down. I was like, I'm not giving more than the 4th for this guy. He's just who he is, and that's what he's going to be. He's not going to transform into Brandon Marshall. He's just not that guy.
He just broke my heart. I needed me another 15 out there.
Yeah, we all do.
Well, if we wanted head cases, we could have taken Pickens.
I would love that. I would love that type of head case. Pause.
Yeah, I hear you. No, guys that fight for their teammates or fight their teammates, whatever it is, that's
exactly.
Fun.
It's football.
Awesome, man. Well, Raul, it's been great having you on, man. Like I said, you're one of my favorite follows on Twitter. Follow Raul on Twitter at @black_42. Hot takes on the regular. Also has some off the wall comments here and there. Never too brash. Find Raul after midnight, and it could be fun.
Yep.
Joe, Lucas, do you guys have anything else for the voice of the people?
No, I want to echo what Chris said. I'm very thankful to have you on tonight, Raul. I know we've gone back and forth on Twitter a time or two, but it was awesome having you on the show tonight, and I really appreciate your perspective. I think you brought a lot of great things to the table, a lot of things that we need to think about.
Yep. I want to thank y'all again. You all are great follows. You guys do a great show. Keep it up, because a lot of the podcasts and people with voices on Bears Twitter just pump a lot of smoke. They want they want the clout. They don't want the actual content. And you guys are far from it. So keep it up. Keep being original and keep doing what y'all do.
Thanks for stopping by, buddy. Have a good workout.
Always, man. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Take care, buddy.
All right.
All right, we got the voice of the people on. Now I have to ask you guys what you're doing this offseason. Who is your big fish that you're luring in besides Deron Payne?
I'm doing exactly what Raul laid out for me. That's a Super Bowl roster he just put out. That's a Super Bears.
See, Joe, in my opinion, though, I don't think the Bears have the luxury of taking a Gibbs in the second.
No,
they
don't.
They have to fix the line, and they got to get a receiver.
You're right.
If they get a second round pick, they have to get a receiver.
I think you're right.
I mean, let's stick chronological. I mean, that's what I like to do, stick chronological, right? So free agency is going to set up the draft. And if you put a lot of money into the offensive line in free agency, which I know there's not a ton of guys out there. Orlando Brown's been a hot topic this week on Bears Twitter. Whether or not he's kind of lost it, is not as good as he once was. I don't know if you move him back to right tackle, if he kind of goes back to that Pro Bowl form or what that looks like.
Him into the sun.
Well, Chris, the big thing about Brown to me is even if he was a great left tackle, maybe not great, but even if he was really good, I mean, he doesn't really fit what the Bears are trying to do. He's like a big, really slow-moving, gigantic bear of a guy. So he's
Jason Peters, and that worked out fine.
Just look how slow his feet are, man.
No, I hear you. I
imagine
you can't have him getting
like
outside.
Braxton Jones, for example. I mean, obviously Brown's probably better than Braxton Jones, but Braxton Jones in space is a hell of an athlete, hell of a run blocker. Like he's crushing dudes as a lead blocker.
Right.
Brown,
my biggest reason for bringing Brown up is he's, the quote unquote top left tackle out there, or top tackle out there, depending on who you ask. So, and I'm not advocating for signing Orlando Brown, but I'm saying if you fix the offensive line, if you do sign Payne on the defensive line or Hargrave, then things open up more for a Gibbs in the second round, which I'm still not for. I've made it pretty clear where I'm at with running back on this podcast in the past, and just the investment, I guess, as it were. I'd rather spend that fourth round. I like Herbert. I like Herbert just fine. I think he can excel in this offense. You get a second guy in there that is a good pass blocker or brings another dynamic to that offense. He just broke everything, though, dude. That's the problem, man.
I love Tony Pollard. He'd be such a good fit.
That'd be fine if he didn't just break his leg and get a high ankle sprain or whatever.
Well, maybe that's why they won't tag him.
Okay. Well, anyway, I mean, like we talked about, this running back class is pretty deep. So, and Lucas, I'm with you, man. I'm not investing in a second round running back. One free agent that we didn't talk about that I would look into would be Tremaine Edmonds, linebacker from the Bills, only 25 years old. I think he, would be a great addition.
Yeah, he was awesome this year. I mean, he was great for Buffalo. Probably, definitely his best year as a pro. And he probably fits more of what Eberflus wants to do, honestly. I mean, he's a bigger type linebacker. He's a thumper. But then, no, I mean, that you bring in a guy like that, your linebacker room all of a sudden is pretty solid. But then again, it's how much are you going to pay Tremaine Edmonds that you weren't going to pay Roquan, basically?
Yeah, I think you're probably looking at 15 to 17 for Edmonds, but maybe not. I mean, maybe it's maybe it's higher. I think from what we've heard from polls, I think he's very particular about what positions he'll give money to. True.
So to Raul's point about us maybe not getting what he thinks is fair compensation for Roquan, I just think he was never going to pay Roquan that much money. And when you hear him talk about edge rusher, cornerback, offensive lineman, yeah, he's definitely very prioritized on what he's looking for. So
yeah, I mean, my plan is centers around fixing the lines on the through free agency mostly. I do like McGlinchey. He had some great, he had the play where he got chucked by Micah Parsons, but
Did you see the run block he had on the only touchdown they scored? Where he blocked two dudes,
mauled dudes downhill, and then backstepped and took the other guy out. So
yeah, he's probably the best fit for this offense too.
Yeah, so I would look at McGlinchey. There's
Jawan Taylor.
Yeah.
Juwan Taylor of the Jags was probably top 5 right tackle this year, and they just paid Brandon Sheriff and Cam Robinson as 2 of the 3 top paid players on their team last year. So they're negative 20 in the hole. I mean, they're going to have to do some. One of their linemen is either going to have to get cut or traded, or they'll have to let Taylor walk. So that's an interesting name, and this goes back to the point of what everyone said last year of, oh my God, you're paying Christian Kirk that much money. Well, you invest that much money in Zay Jones and Christian Kirk, and you're not going to be able to keep one of the best right tackles in the league right now. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm also looking at Davenport, like Raul said. The Saints.
He's interesting.
Ngakwe is another name that I like. That I think could be
Need
okay.
some pass rushers.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, we could go the Mike Mayock route and go get Clinton Farrell, from Clemson. He was the number 4 pick overall, man. He's got to be good.
That was crazy when they took him that high too. I don't think anybody expected that.
That was mad ridiculous.
This guy played in the national championship game. We gotta have him.
I do think the Bears need to get one of Payne, Hargrave, or Draymond Jones free agency.
Yeah, no, I agree. You could, like Raul said, like Payne and Carter inside.
That's what I was just gonna say. What does a defensive interior look like with those two?
Ridiculous.
Well, look what the Eagles did this year. I mean, I wouldn't say they have Hassan Reddick is kind of like a star this year, but I wouldn't say they have like a superstar in that D line. They led the league in sacks. I mean, they got Hargrave, they got Cox, they got Brandon Graham, they've got Hassan Reddick. They just have so much depth of solid football players on that line to get to the QB. A lot of that from the interior. I mean, if the Bears did something similar with Payne and Carter, both would be super young. I mean, you would have a defensive line for the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I think if you do that, you're looking at drafting an edge guy, which is fine because I think this edge class is also pretty deep.
Super deep.
And they also already have Gibson and Robinson from last year. And I understand they weren't phenomenal, but you didn't have anything inside. I mean, I like Armon Watts, but he's not. He's a rotational guy, and so is Justin Jones. Both those guys were fine for what we had, and they stood out because of the lack of other talent around them. But then you can look at drafting a guy to replace Trevis Gibson. Ain't going to cost nothing to cut if you have to. I mean, he's easily replaceable, and Robinson probably is too. And those guys are going to grow. So, and then you added Edmonds in the linebacking group if that's possible. I mean, there's probably plenty of other linebackers. And kind of like to Raul's point, if you have Carter and Payne inside, almost any linebacker looks good behind them.
Yes.
Right.
You can have what's his name? You can have Sanborn and even Morrow back there.
If they had one more and kept those 2 guys, I'd be fine with that.
Or TJ Edwards.
TJ Edwards is a good one.
Or Leighton Vander Esch. I mean, I think I'm not sure if he was there in Dallas when Eberflus was coaching linebackers, but I think Vander Esch. He's a beast. He's not the best player on the planet, but he's good and he's a leader, and and there's some reclamation projects out there like Devin Bush. That guy was awful for the Steelers. But anyway. Luke, is there anybody you want to talk about that we haven't touched on to this point? I would like to focus on free agency. Is there anybody in free agency that you haven't kind of talked about yet that you really like?
I think Juwan Taylor is my big one. I don't think he's been talked enough about in this offensive line class, and that is one guy I wouldn't mind the Bears paying someone in free agency $18 million if that's what it takes to bring him in, considering his age and where he's at in his career. I just think that's a name more people should be talking about. Other than that, I think McGlinchey's the move on the offensive line, and then some of the other guys we named earlier. But I'm kind of with you guys. I don't know if maybe you draft one lineman maybe a center. I don't know, but
Yeah, this
I would say you got to fix him.
It's kind of shit.
Yeah, center's weird though. I mean, I feel like you can find guys in like end of day 2, day 3 that'll come in and start and be fine, and they just don't get drafted high because they're center and they
We
just
also
play
don't
one
know.
position.
We also don't know if Doug Kramer was going to work out. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Because he got
a lot of people liked him last year. So, I mean, there's some decent centers in the free agency class with Lindstrom and our boy Sam Mustafer. Bring him back. Ethan Posick, like from the Browns, like Raul mentioned. So there's some guys out there. Yeah, I think we could get by with another year of Cody and Tevin and Braxton Jones, but I think center and right tackle have to be upgraded.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think they are going
Center's been long overdue.
I honestly think it's probably not going to make a lot of fans happy, but I don't think Poles is going to try and upgrade Braxton Jones. I think he loves that dude. I think he's just going to let him be his left tackle next year.
I 100% agree.
Yeah,
I think I said as much a couple weeks ago.
And I mean, I'm not totally against it. I think he's played better toward the end of the year. So,
well, there's going to be growing pains, when you're a fifth round pick. And he, like we talked about a little bit, Joe, I think you might have been out that week, but just the schedule that, and Poles talked about this. Yeah, just all football all the time. He never really had a break. Played every snap last year. Didn't have a full off season with an NFL program. We could see Braxton Jones take a big leap next year, and it's not like he was Jabe Webb Nation out there just being trucked every which way and that. So I'm fine with that. You can't, like I said, you can't fix everything in one swoop.
Right. Yeah, totally. I'm just setting the expectation. I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, if there's someone out there, they might not even consider Orlando Brown for that reason. They might just say Braxton Jones, our guy right now. We're just rolling with him. So it is what it is. There's worse guys on the line.
With the connection that Poles has to Kansas City and Orlando Brown to see what he really thinks of him. To Raul's point, if you don't like Orlando Brown and you have ties to him, that'll really be telling if they even look at him more or less. So
great. That'd
be super interesting. I like your guy Lucas from the Jags, Juwan Taylor. I think that's a good addition. Joe, what about you, man? Any free agents that we haven't talked about or positions that we should touch on? Cornerback or punter, long snapper?
Yeah, we got to make sure we get a new long snapper in there. Get the spiral of those snaps nice and tight. No, I think we hit a lot of the positions, and I'm with Raul. I really liked his offseason plan, but I wonder the realistic nature of it. Trading back into the second round to get Gibbs or to get a JSN doesn't sound quite as possible. But really, on an outset, hey, this is what we want to do, you may as well lay it out to go big or go home, especially with how much assets we have this year. But I'm with Raul in the sense that the Lions are where it all begins. I was so sick of watching this defense every time you'd run the ball against them, maybe 4, 5, 7 yards, 3, 4, 7 yards. And I mean, of course, you get the occasional tackle for a loss, but really giving up the run so easily this past year, got to get after the line. I don't think Payne's going to be available. I think he's going to get tagged, and the Washington Commanders are going to keep him. So really, I think Jalen Carter is the target up front for us at the defensive tackle position. But for me, yes, Saquon Barkley, really sexy name. All these wide receivers that we've talked about, sexy names. But to me, it's just been what it's always been about. The big, nasty, smelly guys up front. We got to get that right. I agree with what you guys are saying about Braxton Jones. I think he probably will be back next year. I think that Ryan Poles sees that guy. It's like, I found somebody. Give him some time. But I think that center has been long overdone. Like, we've let that position go unattended for far too long, and golly, you want to help a young quarterback, you eliminate the pressure right up the middle. But so really for me, it's getting after the offensive and defensive line, and I think you guys and Raul really laid a lot of great stuff out.
Hell yeah, man.
We are
Sing
an
the song,
hour
Joe.
and 7 into the show.
Yeah. Well, Luke, what I want you to do is save all your extra notes that we didn't get to this week because it is a long off season. We'll talk about next week. Matt Eberflus giving Justin Fields the team MVP award. Hard Knocks as a possibility for the Bears, and we'll continue to follow what's going on in free agency. Guys going to retire, trade possibility. Dane Brugler's got some stuff working with his draft classes already. So really a lot of great things to come on the off-season talk for us on the Believe in Monsters podcast. Luke, thanks so much for reaching out to Raul tonight and getting him hooked up on the show. That was a lot of fun. We're going to have a fun week. We hope all our listeners have a great week. Krogman, anything else you got for the people?
No, man, this was a good one. No, thank you again to Raul Bennington for jumping on. Dude is interesting, very interesting. Love interacting with Raul.
In a great way, in a good way.
No, in an absolutely fantastic way. And like my favorite thing about Raul is he has his convictions. He won't be pushed off of his lines, his guys or his stances on anything. So yeah. Go follow Raul, follow the show, follow Lucas and Joe and myself. And yeah, have a great week, everybody.
Bear down, Chicago Bears. Make every play clear the way to victory. Bear down, Chicago Bears. Put up a fight with the might so fearlessly. We'll never forget the way you thrilled the nation with your T formation. Bear down, Chicago Bears, and let them know why you're wearing the crown. You're the pride and joy of Illinois, Chicago Bears. Bear down.